morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of The Lab. We have an exciting guest with us today from over in the UK. His name is Alex Chester. He's with Flex Health, and we're gonna have a lot of questions here for him today. Gonna kind of dig into the mind of what the sports performance and sports medicine world is like over in the UK. Sitting with you, though, as always, you got Alex to my right here, Brennan to the left, and then down in the corner there with the garage gym shirt, you got David Farwick. All right, so welcome, Alex.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on.
So, Alex, before we get started here, why don't you give us a little bit of a background? I know you and I had sat down last weekend. We kind of had a little bit of an intro chat, got to know you a little bit, but why don't you kind of give us a little spiel?
Yeah, no worries. So I've been practicing now for going on 13 years. Graduated back in 2010 as a sports rehabilitation degree, which is, like I said to you last week, the equivalent of your athletic trainers. I then, on the back of the degree, I was fortunate to get a job straight in professional football, or soccer, as you guys say. So I was working for a team called Hull City. Got really lucky. So that's my hometown. Historically, we was always rubbish. We was always, like, if you've ever watched that We Are Wrexham documentary, we was not far off that level. By the time I became an adult, we'd made it all the way to the Premier League. So I got a few seasons working inside the Premier League. Bumped into people like Jose Mourinho and, everyone who was working in the Premier League at that time. So as a young fella coming through, that was such a sort of great start. Mm-hmm. And then 2015, me and Matt, who, it's his birthday today, otherwise he'd have been on the chat as well. We set up a little, what we thought would just be a little side gig to do a bit of private practice, if you like, on the off season, and when we worked with the football club, and then it just sort of took off. So we made the plunge, and we've been running a private practice up in the north of England for 8 years now. So that's it in a nutshell.
But so, Alex, you're the creator of Flex Health and then also the owner. I know you and I had kind of talked a little bit about, I guess, the difference in healthcare and, how readily available physical therapy is over in the UK. I mean, everyone's probably not going to know that. So, I mean, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about how the setup is over there and then how
so in theory, it should be readily available. Mm-hmm. So we have something called the NHS, which is the National Health Service. Everyone that works in the UK, part of their salary, a very small percentage, goes into national insurance. That contributes towards everything from the healthcare system to just general things that inside the country. So so health is readily available. If you go to A&E or if you get surgery, the majority of people can get it for free. If you want to fast track it and get things in a little bit quicker, there are private insurers or private hospitals available. But physiotherapy in England, sort of on the NHS, is becoming harder and harder to sort of get appointments, especially post-COVID. Waiting lists are up to sort of, I think the longest I saw was 54 weeks for people waiting for a physiotherapy appointment, which there ain't many conditions, which, what good's that after over a year? So there's a bit of a sort of network in England, and the sort of private practice is getting sort of busier and busier. Because even the sort of, I don't want to sort of badmouth the NHS, because it's great. It does provide a very good service, but my colleagues and physios that work in there, they're sometimes up against it with the sort of environment it promotes. Like, you have a hip replacement, for example, or any orthopedic surgery, you might get one appointment in the first sort of couple of weeks and then nothing until weeks maybe 12, and it's just really sporadic, and it's a 8:30 till 4:30 service as well. So unless you can fit in at that time and take time out of work and things like that. So I think over in the UK, like the general consensus of this National Health Service physio is sort of up against it at the minute. Mm-hmm. Why we've set up sort of Flex Health.
Wow. Now you guys are actually kind of how do I put it, like streamlining, or you're trying to make more readily available like online physio. And so you guys have been really pushing it, which I think is awesome. So like, how have you guys kind of taken steps and trying to make your guys, like, I guess your schedules more readily available to everybody? I mean, online, you guys could have like a multitude of different like times, countries, Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we were talking about before, you have people from all over the world.
Yeah, I think Dubai is the furthest one. It just works really well. I think you do need a level of experience. It's huge. It's all subjective. You know, it's really sort of digging deep on your subjective. You're limited with your objective because it's more a couple of functional screenings and things like that. But you're really trying to pick up on the patterns. So
Mm-hmm.
um, we sort of fell into it really. Like we tried it like everyone did during COVID, and we just did it horrendously wrong. We just tried to replicate how we do a face-to-face appointment, and it just turned into me watching someone down a camera do exercises. The whole thing was just weird, boring. No one's really getting anything out of it. So we sort of put it to bed and thought, let's just go back face-to-face. No one needs that. And then it started getting a bit of traction, and we looked at the industry that was doing it really well, and it was like online coaches. So you know, the PT, strength and conditioning, the sort of days of having to go into a gym with a personal trainer were sort of getting smaller and smaller. Like you can deliver all your exercises and your education in a small window of a chat, and then just deliver it via an app or an Excel spreadsheet or however you want to deliver exercise. And we thought these guys are just killing it. So like, what are they doing that physios aren't? And it was more about not just like I said, don't replicate that hours session. It's having micro touch points, you know, having them have access via an app like True Coach or the Physio Buddy app that we've sort of developed. Where if they have a concern, quick question, a squat, for example, should I be going arse to grass or does it matter if I'm just doing that? So a simple question that a patient might have where historically they're waiting a week to talk to you, whereas they could get that. You know, it's like in sport. You know, if the athlete, you see the athlete every day, it's almost like you have direct contact with a physio, which is sort of why I sort of like it. Why sort of the online space for me, especially for your you know your post ACLs, your Achilles ruptures, your straight back hammies and quads, everything that's simple and we sort of can be relatively predictable. We know the time frames, how it's going to heal. I think it lends itself really well to the online physio space, really.
Sure. How frequently are you updating those programs? I mean, is it like a weekly, bi-weekly basis, day
So
to day?
it depends on the individual, their injury, and be honest, what package they're paying for. So
Sure,
we sort of tier it on a subscription monthly model. The more they pay, the more 30-minute consultations that they get with us, but the more
sure.
interaction they sort of get day to day. So at first I sort of burnt myself out. I was thinking, right, let's smash this, let's change everyone's program at the drop of a hat. Whereas now I'm a bit more, I'll check in on a Sunday night and a Wednesday afternoon, something like that, where I have all my programs, I'll drip through them, see who needs updating, who needs changing. Um, if someone's doing well, just sort of maybe push them on with a few more reps or tweak the exercise. But yeah, I tend not to really sort of tweak it until we have a check-in, and that's dictated by their injury and how much they want to see me, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you would have like an ACL, an Achilles, a low back, a general
Yeah,
like pathway that you would follow, and then
yeah,
obviously tweak based upon need.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
yeah, your ACLs the first 12 weeks, no matter of the goal, it's usually the same. You know, you can regurgitate the same program, give or take. It's not until you start getting to maybe the sport specific patterns where you need to really tailor it a little bit. But
sure. And you're
again,
allowing that remodeling time frame too, so
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool, man. I'm gonna open the floor up to these two as well. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, go for it.
Yeah. What's like your biggest like technology that you guys have over there? So like over here we have like 10 no units for bar speed measurements, um, like all kinds of push mode things, operation like that. What's kind of the
Yeah.
big technology wise over there? Maybe
We're probably a little bit behind. So a lot of like private practice, there's a sort of your traditional routes, NHS, private practice, and it's usually people who've done NHS, got a bit bored, want to make a bit more money. So it's still the same sort of mentality. And then you get your sports medicine who tend to stay in sport. So obviously, you know, you got your sort of dynamometers, anything that's coming out, you will get that in sport. But more private practice, you know, we're still sort of handheld dynos, all that sort of stuff, really for sort of tech and yeah, that's sort of where we're at the minute, really.
I mean, yeah, kind of same position we're in. Same thing. Private practice, kind of
Yeah.
limited on funds and stuff like that. So a lot of it's just eyes and things like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, like frankly, even in our stuff, we don't even use force plates all that much unless you're just like funded out the wazoo by somebody.
Yeah.
So I still have yet to see that stuff implemented at like a personal level over here too.
Yeah. Again, yeah, it's very well. It depends what you want to be looking at. Because I think you can, especially with Joe Public, I think you can justify, not going into the eighth degree of what the data can show you objectively from things like, the force plates, handheld. I like the dyno because, especially with sort of looking at quad and knees, there is a quite a strong correlation between how strong someone's quads are and the pain they are at
Yeah.
the knee. Whereas a lot of injuries, it's a bit more grey, isn't it? It's not this guy's weak here, so he will be in pain here. It's a bit, so unless we're looking at the knees, to be fair, I don't tend to use much, being honest. I'll just use the dyno for, anything knee related, really.
Yeah, correct. And I think it's basically just kind of college or university level up that stuff even gets implemented. So
Yeah.
fair point for general pop stuff there.
Yeah.
You do strength and conditioning. You still work with the soccer club?
No. So I do a little bit in the off season. So a few of the players who used to be at Hull or have moved on to different clubs, or they live in Hull and still want to stay fit, I'll do a little bit of more on-field conditioning. Because generally they'll get sent away on the off season with a program to do. So they like to keep that all in house. The S&C coach will set the players program. Here's what you do. So what we tend to do is more on-field conditioning. So we'll just do a lot of intervals, but mainly football, so football specific, hour-based training sessions, really, just to get them ready for pre-season for when they go back. And especially some of the young boys coming through, 20, 21, maybe just breaking into the first team, they want to go back in top shape. So they don't get put, they have like fat club. So they don't get put in fat club when they go back to pre-season, basically, at the club. But nobody wants that.
Right.
I wish we could have something like that over here. Fact, but we'll get canceled.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, that was like, so 2016, probably don't call it fat club anymore. You get cancelled, you're right.
Now, since you're at the professional level, especially with the like soccer, football, can you give us like an example of what that off-season conditioning would look like? Even in that hour time frame, nothing like crazy.
Yeah, so to be fair, like diverted a little bit, but in football there's not a huge gym culture. So in soccer, it's hard to get some of the players in the gym. Maybe it's sort of an academy, so that's like your school and college level. It'll be pushed a little bit more because they've got certain criteria to hit. But once they're sort of professional level, there's not a huge, again, from my experience, there's not a huge sort of gym culture. So a typical sort of conditioning session would just be a lot of 3-minute interval based runs, multi-direction, ball involved, ball not involved. So, your increased demand running. So 15 seconds running with a ball, 15 seconds running without the ball, 15-second recovery with the ball, 15 seconds. So it's that constant change of pace, 3 minutes, just really pushing them, constantly working that sort of 75% level, really. And then, it's just boring running, really, with football.
Yeah.
Nothing too groundbreaking to it, to be fair. A lot of it's just that basic interval for 3 minutes rest, 3 minutes rest.
That's interesting. Because we have a lot of soccer kids really in the gym. So they're, like they're lifting weights and everything like that. And then like we hear some of the, I guess, horror stories of their conditioning, know, and like to us, it just makes no sense. Like why are they running, they'll do stadium stairs and then they'll run a mile and then do stadium stairs again. And it's like, man, that has like no like carryover to the sport that you're playing. And it's just interesting to hear the professional.
I agree. So my last year at Hull was actually down with the under-21s, so that's like the academy level. And again, that's anything from under-8s through to under-21s, and that is a bit more structured. Again, you've got a lot more time with them, so broken down into sort of three categories. You've got your 8s to 12s, 12s to 16s, and then 16s all the way through to pro, and your first year contracts, first year pros, things like that. So again, early stage, there's a lot of multi movements involved. So they'll promote things like, you know, martial arts, other sports, gymnastics, just on the evidence that, again, that can transition, learning how to use your body. You know, if you're a small kid coming up against a big kid, you need to learn how to use your body. Age sort of 12, maybe a little bit before, again, that's when the S&C really starts sort to be built in, and the strength and conditioning coaches will do a lot of time on form and your basic movement patterns, Olympic lifting, all that sort of stuff. So until you get to sort of pro level, that's when it sort of shifts. There's again, it might have changed now. You know, in the 7 years I've not been at the top level of sport and more private practice, it may have changed, but I just know historically it was really hard getting some of the lads into the gym. Contrast to rugby, again, so I had a few summers in with Leicester Tigers and a few other bits and bobs. And again, yeah, that's completely different. You know, these guys train in the morning, then they've got their S&C in the afternoon. Whereas in football, they've got training in the morning and then they've got FIFA in the afternoon, you know, and that's it.
Yeah. So Alex, over at your private practice then right now, do you guys have like strength and conditioning coaches like on staff?
No, we don't, to be fair. We used to have one that came in, but we don't have any on the staff. We sort of very much stay in the physio lane. We outsource a lot of our S&C guys to the guys who do the podcast. They're a company called Project Y, so they're more UKS, SCA accredited. So we just let them boys sort of take over that stage. Once we've sort of fixed them, got them paying free, we say, you know, if you're interested, if anything beyond the basics, sort of go to them, really.
Nice. So then are you guys kind of working together? Like when you finish up working with like a client or a patient, are you guys like, you have that relationship already built in where you guys can kind of like, you're taking us and then we're going to move on to the strength and conditioning coaches now?
Yeah, absolutely. And vice versa. So they might get people that go straight to them, and it's the first time they've been in the gym since, you know, having kids have left the house, so now they're trying to get fit and in shape, so they think they're still 21, so they're coming to us on the back of that. We try and work together, so we never try and pull them out. It's just, well, try this at first, tweak a little bit of this, and then, you know, keep cracking on, just keep healthy. But what we actually do, our biggest sort of relationship with them is we try and not enforce, but we promote our staff to go there and do their training sessions and do their group PT, just because physio, I don't think a lot of physios actually know what lifting is, what intensity is, how to actually work someone to a level.
Preach.
Yeah, absolutely. So we sort of actually promote that for our staff to go, even if just for a 6-week block, you know, teaching someone how to deadlift, to then actually put a program and properly program something to get this person stronger, rather than just going through the motions of, okay, I can deadlift, you know, 20 kg, but okay, well, what are you going to do with that? You know, what does that translate into? How do we get from being able to deadlift 20 kg to, you know, 50% of your body weight, 75% of your body weight, sort of stuff like that. So yeah, again, we promote all our staff to go there, really.
I love that.
I guess I kind of have a question off of that too. So like, what's like the general PT culture? So like in ours, you kind of like get those guys that are just mainly manual, thinking that they can actually change people's physiology with their hands, which of course we can't.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of have people in our camp who are much more like, hey, you know, 10, 15 minutes max, then let's go use 45 minutes and just load you to tolerance, take implicit strength conditioning rest intervals and repeat it until you're better.
Yeah. We're more the latter, so we are more 15 minutes max in the treatment room, and then get them out moving, get them in the gym. Nationwide, UK wide, it's shifting that way. I do think there's a lot of private practice that potentially don't have the space. So, you know, there's not many facilities that have not many physio clinics that'll have a gym inside. We're fortunate, you know, we promoted that, so we made sure that we had a gym, but there's still like just a lot of, you know, people treating out of their house or treating. Yeah, so they're sort of struggling to actually promote it when they can't go in the gym with the patient themselves. but again, I'm definitely more the camp of 15 minutes, right? Let's get you moving because that's what's going to work. I'm not in the camp where it's completely non-hands-on. I know there are people that just don't see the point in it at all. I don't think there's that. I don't see the point in going to that level where you just refuse to use your hands. Even if it is just, I don't see what's wrong with meeting someone's expectation. If they're coming to physio and they have an expectation of a bit of manual therapy, I'm going to touch, even if it's going to make me feel better, to then get out in the gym and I can move a little bit better and my pain's a little bit less, then I don't see the problem in that at all.
Exactly. If it helps you, it helps you.
Yeah, no, exactly. And even in that sort of purist, getting a bit of trust and buy-in, for me to touch someone, they've got to trust me. So even in that just purist form of that, I tend to like sort of a little bit of manual therapy and hands-on stuff.
Yeah, that same private practice, it even becomes more paramount because they have options to go elsewhere. So, at some rate, it's almost customer service at that point. But if it's a placebo effect and you load them, great.
Absolutely, amen. Completely agree.
I'm gonna poke your button here a little bit. So in terms of when you hear or you see the bulletproofing,
yeah.
I knew I was going to get a response there.
Yeah. It's just it does annoy me that term, just because there's nothing that's going to absolutely bulletproof. Everyone gets some form of injury, and again, then coming back to the evidence, just because someone can do a weighted sissy squat or has the most mobile knees in the world, it doesn't translate to being able to do a sub 40-yard dash or be able to bomb down the wing and whip it in top bins in football. Sorry if I've gone off the rail there with my slang, but sorry if I just confuse everyone there. But what I said is, it doesn't translate into a sporting performance, and it doesn't also translate into a complete injury prevention. So there are a few people that just, I suppose when they package it and it's like a guarantee, do this and you will then be able to do this, and then that will lead to being the best athlete and being completely injury proof. Just false in it. It's just bollocks.
Yeah, I agree with you. That just, oh man, there's a few people who put out programs where it's like, you'll have these, forever like immortal shoulders where like any load, anything is just going to basically
ATG group.
Thank you. Yeah.
Got you.
Some of that stuff just drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I was just curious to see what your take was. I kind of had an idea based off one
of
your
I mean, outside of your sort of maybe post-surgical protocols, and you look at your tendons, anything you're rehabbing, there's always a bit of give and take. It's never straightforward. Patient X might respond differently to patient Y. So, instantly, it's not a one size fits all. So if you're trying to bullet someone's patellar tendon, for example, you don't know how they're going to respond to this exercise versus another exercise. To package it up and say, do this and you'll never have pain again. Yeah, it really annoys me.
Agreed.
Dang.
I think preaching resilience and like general physical preparedness is probably much better in the long term, but not quote unquote bulletproofing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, not to clarify, not anti-load at all. It's just
no absolutes. Yeah.
Do this or you're not going to get better. So in terms of like, I guess this is maybe more of a physical therapy question. In a perfect world, like with Flex Health, where would you see you guys like implementing strength and conditioning like as a whole? Because I know like here in the United States, they kind of have like dividing lines between like the sports medicine and like, you have your athletic trainers, your physicians, you have the strength and conditioning coach, then you have the physical therapist. Like my perfect model would be like a clinic where you could actually have strength and conditioning coach and PT all in house. So like you could maybe do like your first few sessions with the PT and then eventually translate into like, I mean, I know we have the physical therapy assistant position and I do appreciate everything that they do for us. And I think it's a wonderful position to have, but I do think that sometimes when you do like, I guess with where I'm at in my niche I'm in with physical therapy and having like a sports physical therapist, I want to be able to have that buy into like the process as a whole. Cause like sometimes when you try to go push someone off into like a strength conditioning coach or a personal trainer and you don't have like aligned values,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's hard to kind of get that buy-in. Like, you need to go see a strength and conditioning coach, or you need to go see a personal trainer, when maybe they don't have the same kind of methodology, or maybe even like the scrutiny or analytical mind that you want them to have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like, how would you guys, or how have you guys been like implementing that in Flex Health? Because you guys, honestly, with what I've been seeing, I mean, you guys, you practice what you preach. You guys are promoting like just overall well-being, and like you guys have that relationship already. Like, what is like some next steps that you guys would see?
Good question. So I mean, I think physio, from our conversation last week, so physio over here is a bit more generalized
Mm-hmm.
for the individual. Like I said to you, we do our 3 years of study, and then that's it. We're qualified, we're out working. Whereas you guys do your 4 year undergrad, then do your
Yeah.
3 years at PT school, so and then you specialize straight away. Is that correct?
You can, yeah, you can. Not
Yeah.
like mandatory, but you can.
So we sort of, we do, once we've done our 3 years, we then do the standard route is to do your rotation. So you'll have neurological experience, you'll have respiratory experience, you can try and go into sports medicine, but that's a completely different sort of tangent for most. If you sort of go down the sports medicine route, that's you sort of branded, that's you sort of done, you stay in that sort of lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hardest part on that transition from physio to personal training, unless you do have it in house and you have someone who sits in the meetings and engages in what you're trying to preach, is sometimes, unless the patient comes from a sport background where they're used to dealing with coaches and different medical staff, sometimes it's the trust. Like, they might just trust you, and that you could say that now you've done maybe a bad job, that they become a bit dependent on you or something like that. But yeah, I think sometimes we see it where a patient so what we do to try to counteract that is we will introduce different physios. So we'll introduce a physio and a sports athletic trainer to them early on in the process. So in their acute stage or something like that, we'll make sure that they're introduced. They have the odd session with them, so it'll be physio led, and then the sports rehabber will just do the odd session, maybe one out of every 4 or 5. And then as that journey goes on and they're becoming more functional, the pain's not, they're more or less ready to go back into sport or whatever they're doing. I suppose the athletic trainer and the sports rehabber would take over the role, and they'll then be more for you sort of phase yourself out. So I guess that's sort of one way we could look. That'd be a great way of sort of doing it. Because yeah, it's one of them. I think finding a good PT and a good strength and conditioning coach is the hard part as well. Because most over here, most personal trainers have done I did a level 3 personal training course, and I did it in, I don't know, about 3 weeks, something like that. So, you can do a very bog standard level 3 personal training qualification and start charging people for that personal training service. So I guess
the level of entry is pretty low here too.
Yeah. So that'd be the sort of hard part of bringing it all in house, I guess.
Now, do you find it difficult for yourself to, when you're training a person, to like, or would you go too cautious as like a PT side of things, or would you go like, too cautious on like the strength and conditioning side of things too?
Sorry, what do you mean? Sorry.
As far as like when you are making that transition from, let's just say it's an ACL patient.
Yeah.
After their 12 weeks, you're starting to give them a little bit more of a leash and stuff like that. Do you find it hard to like let that leash out, or?
No, I'm quite pro for it, really. Like, again, it ties itself to the online stuff, because when you say like, here's your program, and ultimately, like, I installed it quite early that if you're doing an ACL, I'm just here for guidance. Like, I can't do the exercises for you. I can mobilize your knee and maybe get you a few more degrees of flexion in the early days, but beyond that, mate, it's down to you. Like, you need to be in the gym 3-4 times a week. You need to stimulate a change. I'll guide you, and we'll be within guidelines, and you can't do this at this stage, and you can do this. But I installed quite early that it is completely down to them. If they need that hand holding, I'll be there. But if they want to go in the gym and just follow what I'm doing, then yeah, crack on, mate.
That's awesome.
What did you say?
Crack on.
Right on.
Yeah.
Pay attention, dude.
I love it. All right, we've got about 7 more minutes here. You mind if we just do a quick speed round here, Alex?
Yeah. No worries.
So number one, besides obviously like, you've been in physical therapist for a while now. What would you say was like the number one thing that inspired you, or maybe you had an injury or something that got you into this field to begin with?
Yeah, so I did actually have it. So I had my ACL. So I played rugby. It was an ACL and a tib fracture in one go. Not nice. And the only reason I'm doing this now is because I actually went to get in the armed forces. So I went to go into the Navy and I failed the medical. So yeah, I remember failing the medical and thought I need to find something because I'd done high school. So like we said last week, our high school finishes at 16. We can then have a go. Yeah,
I had the same reaction. Yeah.
So our high school finishes at 16. You can then either get like a trades job, any job you want really, or you can go to do sixth form college, which then leads to university. So yeah, I was, what was I doing? I had a sales job selling makeup. I had a call center job selling gas and electric down the phone and all that crap. And I thought I need to find something, and yeah, luckily found this.
What position were you in rugby?
I was a scrum half.
Okay.
Scrum half. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Didn't get tackled much. Played in a dinner suit. That's it.
That's awesome. So what would you say is maybe one of your, I don't want to say inspirations, but like, who would you say has been like a good mentor to you, and what would you recommend for like starting physios, like when they're wanting to get into like the field that they absolutely love? What would be like the number one or two things that they should do with a mentor or finding a mentor?
Me and Matt, we had three really good mentors, to be fair. So like I said, when we got to Hull, we were very fortunate. They just hired the head of medicine was ex-Liverpool, ex-England, first team physio. He was he sort of just broke it down, and a lot of it is risk management. It's like if you're treating someone, and I do like to flirt with the limits. I do like to push someone to sort of the limit, no matter what stage of injury they're at. He sort of installed, if every time you do that, just have like a risk assessment in the back of your head, like what is the pros and cons versus trying to shave a few days off versus doing this exercise, like what's the sort of risk and versus reward. We had another guy, Stuart Leake, who again was very experienced physio, ex-military, and he was very hard ass. Like if you got it wrong, he just outed you in front of the full team, which again I responded to quite well because it made me think I don't want to be in that situation again. So, and he was very like anatomically led. So if you knew your anatomy and you really understood the research, and he loved quoting things, he loved quoting research of things he just read and all that sort of stuff. But again, it just sort of reinforces that, just basically back yourself. So always have a clinical reason for why you've done it. Don't just do it on a whim. But I think the biggest thing is having a passion for it. I think one thing we install at work, and we can see it when it's dwindling in someone, is if you don't have a passion for getting someone back or for actual physio or S&C or whatever it is you're doing, it's hard to do it really, really well at that top level if you don't genuinely have a passion for it. So it's one of them, I think if you've not got a passion for it, try and find something in it that will light that fire. And if you can't, then I don't think it's for you, to be fair, physio, because it's not glorious, it's not glorified and all that sort of stuff. So unless you actually love it and you want to help someone, then I'd look at something else, but to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually got one on the other side of the coin here. What's the hardest thing about being a physical therapist in England? Like ours is easily patient volume and documentation, bar none. Do you guys have any like barriers that are very hard as far as being a physical therapist?
Good question. And again, because it is so broad, like my experience in physio is quite narrow because it's been the sports medicine, and so sports medicine is really like a big barrier. It's hard to get in. And once you're in again, it's not as glorious as you as it made out. It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
Especially during the season, you can't take holidays. I've missed birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, all sorts. because Hull City were playing on a Saturday and we had to travel down to London, something like that, you know.
Yeah, you're married to it.
Sorry?
You're married to it.
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely. Yeah. So the sort of sports side of it is you have to be married to it, engulfed in it. But yeah, I suppose the other barriers to physio is it's just, especially in the NHS, it's like I say, you know, you're given a 15-minute appointment. That's all you're given. And that may be following a hip replacement. That might be once every 4 weeks, maybe once every 6 weeks. So the best
right.
physio in the world cannot install the education, the information, the exercises, getting buy-in from someone. It's already getting a bit of a negative rep over in the UK on the waiting list that we mentioned, the sort of standard of care that you can provide in a 15-minute slot. So I think that's the biggest barrier that we've got over here in the UK, within that sort of NHS setting, to be honest.
Wow.
Sounds similar.
Dang. No,
Not quite 15 minutes, but
yeah,
it sounds similar.
Yeah.
So it looks like unfortunately that's all the time we're gonna have here asking questions though, Alex. But
that went quick. That was good.
I know. Flies by, man. You're getting grilled, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but we hope you guys enjoyed today's episode sitting down with Alex Chester from Flex Health. Hopefully we'll bring him back and get a few more little tidbits out of him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll drag Matt along next time because he's got out of this with it being his birthday. But no, we'll get him involved. We're very, very different, so we'll have a lot of different answers on different questions.
Yeah, that could be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's been a pleasure. Really, really, really thank you for having me. It's been great.
Of course.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for your time.
Class.
No, we'll see everybody in the next episode.